Welcome back to the Obojima Podcast. My name is Jeremiah, and I'm with Ari and Adam. We are the writers of Obojima. And this week, you are stopping by for our writers' meeting where we sit down, we chat Obojima, we talk about cool things. Some of it makes it into the book, some of it doesn't. We'll see where it goes. This week, we're continuing our Yatamon conversation, and we're chatting about a location within Yatamon.
Oh, yeah.
This is something Adam mentioned a couple episodes ago, but just something we've been talking about off camera, which is the idea, this witches market, like this place, this bazaar, this location where like witches gather to sell and brew potions and this whole thing. We kind of like riffed on this idea, and so I wanted to keep on chatting about it on camera and just talk about like, what would a really amazing bazaar market look like in Obojima? And so, okay, here's to fill you in on what you're missing. Here's where we're at. So Yanari, the witches market, based off of Yanari, are these like oni, these little mini oni spirits that are like little pest spirits that like to make sound. So we were like, what, like this market that's maybe infested with pest spirits that come out at night. And maybe it's in like a 4 or 5 story like parking garage, and each parking lot space is a different market stall, and customers come to buy potions and first aid and objects and ingredients and enchanted things. And we're messing with it off camera, but I want to bring it in front now and talk about like, what does a staple location look like? I think we talk about a couple different things in Yatamon, but a lot of them have to deal with the factions and things like that. This is like a non-faction related magical place where like maybe their potion brewers come. I think the concept we were talking about is, if you're a customer, if you're a person who lives in Yatamon, where do you go to pick up your local potion? You go to the witches market, right? And so what does that look like? The other thing we were kind of chatting about is like, if we named it after Yanari, or we were talking about naming it after Yanari, they come out at night. So is the market different at night? And, does it change? What is the culture like? What kind of people come at night versus the people come at the day? Like, how does it visually change? What does that look like? And then the other discussion is like, why are there, if there are all these pest spirits that live there, why do they live there? Why do people let them live there? Is there a use for them? Adam even mentioned like, are there like pest spirit tamers or something like that? All discussions to be had. And so the first thing I think I want to go over is like, what do the people around think of when they think of like a big market? I think when I take a place, like a bunch of players to a local town, I feel like they always rush to a market. That's the first thing they're always doing, right? They're like, oh, we go to the market, we want to buy, like, everyone's trolling for magic items, right? And so like, if this is the place, what does that look like in Yatamon? Are these enchanted objects, or these magic items, or these potions, like, are they always like little trinkets to help people like get through their day and accomplish little tasks? Are there any cursed objects there? Is there like a nefarious side of the witches market that comes out at night? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, we were also talking about like that, here is where like street potion makers gather, and that there's this sort of culture here where it's kind of like street food vendors. Like there's some that they're just kind of slopping it together, but then there's others that are kind of these creative geniuses that are making things that are breaking all the rules.
A lot of eccentric brewers and stuff.
Yeah. They're like doing with different materials that you haven't really heard of before or something, and that the ones who are sort of the traditionalists, and they like you had mentioned, like Michelin star chefs, they create the things and they kind of look down on them, but they're also maybe a little bit, some of them are a little bit intimidating, and there might be this rivalry between the witches. Like the witchery is an academy that does everything by the book, but these witches that come to the market where there's all these ingredients kind of going around and all, and, from different areas, and there are these potion brewers there that are really kind of characters in themselves, and they're breaking all the rules, and
I just had a question, just because I'm trying to get the right image in my head. Adam, did you imagine this is in a parking garage, parking garage?
Yeah, parking garage, like a standalone building that takes like a city block or something.
Is it above ground, or do you imagine it's like okay, it's
above ground?
I think it's above ground.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
I think it's above ground. Like I've been saying open air, where it's like, like when you go to a parking structure and it's like there's pillars that are holding a bunch of concrete platforms, but you can like look out. Maybe there's like metal wires.
Okay, I just want to make sure I was visualizing the right thing.
Yeah, it's probably like covered in like greens and moss, and there's like maybe flags and a bunch of other like signs and posters, or what I imagine it's very like
the Yanari sounds coming out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like great. It's covered in junk and like filled with like all of the most. So one of the things I was comparing it to is in Japan underneath Akihabara is like a market that the stalls are tiny. It's like a 4 foot by 5 foot by 6 foot box, and like inside of it is thousands of things. And like in order to get inside it, the market vendor needs to like crawl underneath their thing and behind and twist and worm their way into the position, and then they can't sit. They're just standing there all day until the shop closes and they come and pull like a metal grate down and lock it, and that's it, right? If you want to see this, I'll maybe we can put the link in the video. There's an amazing video of an electrician, like a person who sells electronics at one of these places, and he has to quit because his mother gets sick. And so one of a local artist in Japan hires a company. He buys all the stuff from him, like all of his shop. He buys it out straight because he was just going to throw it away, and hires a company to rebuild his shop in his like studio so it can still exist. Oh wow. It's very cool, very interesting. But I think that vibe is what I'm going for in this market. I want it to be like eccentric and weird and full of junk and all of this craziness, and it should look that way from the outside, like different banners and flags and like electronics hanging from the side, and like you can almost imagine like a draw ladder like thrown over the side, and people are like, I'm going to skip the stairs and go straight into the second floor or whatever, Yeah. I just love that level of like, it's almost like organized chaos. Yeah. Contained in a box in a giant concrete structure. But I love the comparison to like food vendor, like street vendor, like these like witches. It's like the meme going around right now. Like you walk into a coffee shop and you turn around if your barista doesn't have tattoos. Like, oh, I'm not getting a latte. Sorry. It's like the same thing. Like you show up, it's like, oh, if my potion brewer doesn't have tattoos and crazy haircut and piercings, I'm getting out of here.
Some weird little spirit companion.
Exactly. Yeah. I like that. Like it's like you have to make really good potions really, really fast because customers are coming all the time. It's this busy market where you're like taking custom orders and brewing potions and sending them out. Yeah.
Here.
Is this a place, do you imagine, like in the game, if I have ingredients, can I bring them to one of these people to, like to put it together? You know what I mean? Like, is there, how there are some places you could bring an ingredient and they'll cook it up for you.
That's interesting.
Like that. So that's what I'm wondering.
I mean, maybe, maybe it's like for some people, like a local merchant's like, well, I'm traveling next week, so I want a couple of these potions to help me get over obstacles. And then there's another person who's like, I'm coming in from town and I'm looking for, a whimsical potion. Here's a couple of ingredients. Make me something good, right? Like, that's it. I mean, that actually says something about potion consumption that we haven't necessarily considered, which is like, are people consuming potions for entertainment?
Whimsy
Whimsy's kind of all over the place, right? Like how to, maybe the average person isn't like wasting their coins on like fun potion experience.
Could be like a cocktail, it's like you drink like I mean, especially in Japanese culture too, it's like creating, being a mixologist.
Yeah.
It's like, you're trying to create something that's delicious and that's creative and inventive. Like, have you seen the ones where the guy's got the ice and he has the sword and he like cuts it in squares and he spins the glass and he lights it on fire and then smoke comes out and then he like shows it to you and then he's like the bottle comes out. It's like it's this display.
We need to do a compilation of Adam talking everywhere but the microphone.
Like Adam's over here, Adam over here. Yeah, I need like the
several microphones.
Yeah, the announcement. At like the
like a sporting event, like 30 of them all.
Like the heavyweight champ of the world comes out and there's like 20 mics. Yeah.
No, I love that. I love I like the idea of like a witch here being like, here's your epic bottled bomb. If you're that's a rare potion. Here's your bottled bomb. By the way, when this one explodes, it's gonna smell like sweet cinnamon. And you're like, what? And you're like, yeah, it's just my extra flair. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
My signature scent.
My signature scent for all my thrown potions.
I mean, another opportunity for a list is that like you've got your all the potions that are in the book. But then you have this list of like, here's what a specific vendor, the flair that they would put on it.
The flair, yeah.
So one might have a fireworks display, or another one might like have a puff of,
Every time you open a potion, it's a specific color.
Yeah.
It poofs in a heart shape.
Yeah.
I love that. I love like everyone having a signature flair for their like all the witches that brew here. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so people are like customers are coming to buy not buy ingredient. Well, some of them are buying ingredients. At least, we'd kind of mentioned maybe if the parking structure has four levels, one level's potions, one level's ingredients, one level is
like enchanted,
and the other one's like first stage technology. So there's more than just witches here. There's also like curators of first stage technology who are maybe exploring the island and bringing back here. Are they taking from Yatamon specifically?
Is it like that show American Pickers or something?
Yes, exactly.
It's
American
like
Pickers.
Like storage container, like where
Storage Wars.
Yeah, Storage Wars.
Yeah. It's kind of like a flea market vibe up here.
Yeah, I love that. I like the I think this is like maybe the spot where players can come to fill up on cassettes and VHS tapes and other things like that. But it also, I'd imagine this spot would be like a toy. What am I saying? A toy shop? That sounds weird. A toy store. A candy shop. A candy store. A candy store. That's the saying. I was like, this sounds weird. It'd be like a candy store to someone who's playing like a spirit fused fighter, right? Who like is enchanting these objects all the time and is looking for them. It's like they're gonna find a plethora of unique things here, which I really love.
Do you imagine this place is open every day? Like you could just go there like a mall, or is it like like every Sunday or whatever? This is when it shows up.
I think it's probably like a food cart pod. We have a lot of food cart pods in Portland, where it's like it's open all the time. Who's open during that day is unique to the vendor. So it's like at any point in time, there's someone there running their shop.
So if we're gonna build this into the book, we have to figure out what we're telling the DM, or what we're kind of arming the DM with, because how many stalls are here? And we're not going to give an exhaustive list of just like, here's every stall that's here.
400 stalls.
Yeah, here's 400 stalls, and here's like, how do we build this out?
I think what you do is, so if each level has a category,
Mm-hmm.
I think you go by each level and you say, here are the 5 important stalls on each level, and then here's a table for you guys.
Thank you.
If you want to, you can roll on like a table that's like makes a weird NPC who's running the shop and a table of what they're selling. So it's like maybe you do 3. So it's like, oh, they're a spirit. They they glow and they are selling radishes. And you're like, all right, that's what's here. That's the ingredient guy. And he's like, you
want to buy my radish?
So you can do a little table because there's just too many. A parking garage is meant to have endless spots, but I think, and then you just like make a couple hero locations within that are like the important ones. And while we're at it, while we're being said, what are some cool, like, what is the type of character that you'd imagine who's collecting and selling? If we're going for that same feeling of like the potion brewing side, all the witches are like these, not cutthroat, but they're like the cool chef on the Cooking Network, right? That's like doing all the interesting weird stuff. What does the ingredient side of it look like? Is it just like a bunch of farmers like howdy, whatever? Like, are they also like this kind of like divey, like some of them are probably explorers. We probably have ingredient people that are
foragers and
and stuff like that. We probably have certain people that are like skilled in a specific ingredient type.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think bashu powder needs to be created, and so it's like, oh yeah, they're a bashu expert, right? They create these things, or nakadama spice.
Zelt beans.
Yeah, where it's like that. There's like a nakadama, someone who's there who like is. Oh, I've been making nakadama spice this way for 16 nakadama generations, which is 8 human or whatever, right? So I think there's like those things, like vendors that are like specifically good at one of the created ingredients, and then like foragers, maybe foragers who only deal in like lichen and mushrooms, so they only collect those unique ingredient types.
You can also have somebody who's there to buy.
Yeah,
buyers.
Right?
Like,
you might have buyers there. They're there to source stuff. So that could be another thing you could do. So if you're gathering ingredients, but you're not really into the brewing part of the game, this is another thing you can do, right? You can sell your stuff. I think, I don't know.
Yeah,
cool
I really like that. And so, and then when it comes to, I think the enchanted part is going to be the part where we need to like walk the line the most, because I think in D&D in general, something that is very hard for a lot of DMs, including myself, is knowing when to give magical items and like how potent those magical items are. And so when it comes to the enchanted side of this, are all of these enchanted? How are they enchanted? Are they if they're being enchanted by those people, we're saying something about the world of Obojima? Are they found objects that have enchantments? Maybe because of Yatamon, and it's, as you've looked back on some of our previous episodes, like Yatamon's flush with magic. Maybe some of these first age objects are just becoming enchanted.
Could also be another reason why people go into the subway. Like we were saying, the deeper you go, the more kind of weird magic happens, and maybe you get an item down here and you bring it up, and it's a weirdo. And it doesn't necessarily have to have like a mechanical thing where it's like, oh, this thing could be broken, or you're getting +1 and +2 items. It could be, like those magical trinkets that don't do anything game-wise, but they just add flavor, like a locket that when you open it up, it sings a weird song or something like that.
So my question is, are we going to make 10,000 mundane magic items? Like how do we make a enchanted level feel robust without having the DM having to make up a bunch of enchantments?
I think like magic items or enchanted items are on such a different tier that I'm wondering if we do something different. And so what you can have is a pop-up kiosk that shows up every once in a while, and you might, the word might get out of just like, You know, I'm going to use Legend of Zelda. Beetle showing up today or whatever, right?
Okay.
And we don't know what Beetle has, but we know that Beetle shows up, or whoever this character is, when they have an item to show. To either maybe they auction it, or maybe there's something they're just like, today I have, you know, this magic, you know, this quiver of magic arrows that do X. Or another time it is something that is mundane. I have this magical locket that legend says comes from across the sea. Well, what? What the hell is that? You know, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So you might have something that is only shows up every once in a while, because now that becomes a story hook where you're there on the first 2 levels and the DM suddenly says, and there's a stir. Suddenly you hear everybody like murmuring, like what's going on? Oh, you know, the kiosk is showing up today. Oh, that's what's the kiosk? And then you get to like, you know, there's an auction. Whenever they show up, they auction this thing. You got to make sure you're there. You know, when at dawn the next day or whatever, and then you'll see what's on display, and you know, things like that. And of course, somebody might be planning to steal that item, and it's like, you know, so you get wrapped. So that maybe that's not just always available, because magic items and enchanted stuff, I think it's just on a different level than consumables, potions, or ingredients and things like that.
So maybe what it is, so in Tokyo there's I think I told you about this, Adam. There's like a I guess flea market that occurs every Saturday that's not like hosted by anyone. It's just there's this empty parking lot, and they come and fill it with junk. Like anyone can show up and they fill it with junk and sell whatever it is, right? So maybe the bottom level is like there's like 14, or there's like, you know, 15 spots or whatever, and whoever shows up can put the earliest in the morning, sets up their wares and sells it, and if you didn't, you don't get to sell it. And then there's like special days that are reserved for the kiosk where so like the bottom level's like whatever junk the randos pulled for that day. And sometimes there's like really good trinkets and weird stuff down there. And then like there's like this specialty occasion where this like really well-known seller comes, and when they come, they like clear out clear it out, and it's like this person, there's this fabled NPC character that comes in and sells it.
There could always be like a blank stall, right? Or like an empty stall.
Yeah.
Except when that person
it's reserved for them.
Reserved. Yeah.
Oh, you know what would be interesting too? We could also either in place of that level, or in addition, we could make it a food one, and we could make, what's his name? Your guy. Your roaming chef guy.
Oh gosh.
Django. Miles for the win. Yeah. What if this is like, what if this is where Django comes to like just share stories?
Oh, man.
And so it's like, this is like the food section. Like if there's one level that's food section, and like once, you know, every other month Django comes, and it's like an event.
Yeah, dine with Django.
Dine with Django, yeah. And he like comes and he like serves his favorite meal that he's discovered over the...
Oh man, mind blown. Everybody freaks out.
It could be cool. It could be a way for us to introduce Django officially into the game.
Yeah.
Dig it.
My wife would be really happy. She loves that.
Okay, so then the other thing is, you know, we had this idea of like naming this market after the Yanari, right? These tiny little pest spirits. They are real. They're not real. Nothing's real. That's not.
This whole thing's real.
Yeah, yokai aren't real, but they are They is a yokai, right? Similar to like an oni or another yokai. Well, yeah, I don't think kaiju are yokai.
Oh no.
But like, but anyways, so it is a real yokai, like from history, and so we're kind of pulling all that inspiration, bringing it into Obojima, and so in, you know, what's said of them is that they like go into new construction and they make noises and they squeak your floorboards, and they're pesty, right, or pesky, and so. How are they involved in this? Like, clearly, if it's Yanari the Witch's Market, then it is named after these things. when do they come out? Do they come out at night and that changes the tone? Is there someone that owns this big like parking structure that allows all this to happen, or did this naturally occur where people come and just like divvied up the parking lot like this? Is there someone who controls them or maybe keeps them at bay? You had said like pest,
like a yokai whisperer.
Yeah, like someone you could almost imagine where it's like at night there's these people that are covered in like bells and like clackers and wooden things and instruments and stuff like that, and they walk around with a silence spell cast on them, like a candle that casts a silence spell, and all the Yanari come and like fiddle with them and play with them, and it's like this zone of silence, but they're obsessed. Like how, like I wonder how this interacts with it. Are they helpful? Like at night, did they come and assist? Like maybe some of them have been like are being trained or like maybe some sort of an enchantment, so they aid some of these potion brewers or cooks.
What if during the day, the entire area, there's always just like beautiful melodies being played, like there are musicians maybe kind of around, so you get this like beautiful music, and these little pests can't stand it. Like,
okay,
they can only abide cacophony.
Yeah.
So when the market closes for the night and those musicians go home or whatever, then they like swarm this area again. Like they're able to come back here. Why they're drawn here, I don't know. But this is clearly, for some reason, this is like their area. And so at night, this place, unless you're thinking that the market's open all hours, basically.
So I guess we could kind of go in we could go in any direction, right? We could go like isekai style, where it's like, there's like a fun vibe of like these small places at night where it's lit up and it's dark everywhere. And that's really cool. Or we go with it's always sunny out, and when it's not sunny, that's when the yokai come to play, right? That's where the Yanari come out to play. In which case, what is,
I mean, the night market's a fun aspect of city life, right?
Yeah.
Like there's something cool about that.
I think I like the interaction of like people existing with the pest spirit, because in most descriptions of pest spirits, we have them like being kicked out, right? Like in there's artwork for Yatamon where pest spirits are being swept out of a shop, right? Yeah. And so like I like the idea of how are they living, how are they coexisting with them? Like almost like there's too many Yanari to get rid of, so we have to figure out a way to coexist.
So what if they're drawn to the clink of coins? Something like that. Maybe the sounds that they make mimic them or something like that. That's actually like what's going on. It's like there's so many transactions going on here that like they gather up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like that. Yeah, they love because it's so busy already, they love to add to it. So the question is, are they like do people like just ignore them and they're just around? And that's a possibility too. Like maybe they're just always around, constantly making noises.
Yell over them and stuff. Yeah, because like, okay, so I don't like big crowds.
Yeah.
It's just I don't like them. But my brother, because I'll be like, this is so chaotic. Like all this, it's too much. And my brother, by contrast, loves hubbub. Like he loves like a crowd, and just being able to like, go through it. And there's this kind of chaos that is just he finds fun to kind of see. And so I think about that. I'm just like, are they kind of just drawn to that?
Yeah.
But why are they not drawn to other crowded parts of the city? What is it about this area? Or is this simply, this is a thing that's here for whatever reason they've gathered. They continue to come back.
They could be attracted by noise, and maybe when noise is being made by other people, they're just kind of like feeding off of it. And then when things go silent, then they're like, and they just want to kind of smash stuff.
I like that. I think there is, as someone who's been to a convention and been to many conventions, there is nothing quite like the the white noise
The
that is
sea
like
of
a
noise.
sea of
Yeah.
people being like, blah, 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 like it's
Echo,
nonsensical. You can't tell
Yeah.
what's going on. And so it's like, if that's what the market is, where it's like people are buying and coins are being traded and the clinks of different first aid junk and witches are like, clinking bottles and stirring their potions. It's just this huge, like, crazy noise, and they just love like they're like running around like
you see them
like spider monkeys,
climbing along the ropes and stuff.
They also maybe have this like insubstantial quality to them where they're like shifting in and out of the structure themselves. You can imagine like the feet dangling from one floor and then picking up or sticking up from the other.
What if the more noise there is, the more substantial they become? So like they're actually always there in quiet or whatever.
Oh.
But when the more you talk, like the more real they become, and then they start kind of scampering down like the
neat.
wall.
I really love that. Yeah. So when there's
that.
quietness, they kind of fade away.
Yeah.
They're only. That's good.
Yeah.
I really like.
So
that.
I'm imagining like if you do have those, weird like rolling gates, that like close a stall. When those rattle open, those are like the first noises of the morning, and you start to see these like things start to emerge. Yeah, they start to appear.
Yeah.
Or they were slumbering like in the little kiosks and stuff. And when you hear that kind of like roll open, they all start to kind of like pop into existence and stuff.
Maybe the food, the food section, the food levels, the only one that really stays open late at night. And so like you can kind of like, it's loud, but it's not quite loud. So the experience is like, you might see like a spoon floating and then someone coughs and like they appear all of a sudden, you can see someone holding the spoon and it goes away. Or it's like more melancholy, like people are relaxing and drinking. Maybe the witches are coming down from the potion brewing level. And this is like, there's like this level, there's like from midnight to like 2 a.m. all the witches are like, we're done for the day and now we're just eating. And now it's like all the merchants, it's mostly the merchant floor and it's like the shutting down, and maybe it closes at 4 a.m. and then starts back up at 6 or starts back up at 8 or something like that. So there's only 3 hours when it's not really, functioning.
Are these things dangerous at all? Or are they just kind of like an environmental like delight, as part of this thing?
I think they're just ambiance.
Yeah.
I think you could probably involve a story around them where they're like, maybe one of them wants to steal, or maybe someone has like the ability to control a few of them, where it's like now they're using them as like their dubious little like puppets to move around. But I don't think they ever quite get into like, they don't get into dangerous qualities.
Like,
what if go ahead.
I was just thinking like there's like spider monkey intelligence.
Yeah.
Like you could train one to go pick a pocket.
Yeah.
But what if they get antsy in silence? So we were talking about them becoming more physical. But what if like they get antsy? Like let's say you're doing your morning exercises in the park or whatever, and it's like you're enjoying the stillness. But one of these things recognizes that you can make sound. Right. And so they start like bothering you. And I'm imagining, I don't know if there's something there where I'm imagining, I don't know, this is the dumb version, but like they might force you to make concentration checks if you're trying to maintain a spell. Right. Because they're just like, they just make noise. Yeah. Right. They crave that. Maybe they do feed off of noise in some way.
Things
yeah.
But for whatever reason, do they make noise? You said they do make noise.
So in the traditional folktale, they're the ones that are making all the noise.
Okay, yeah. So it's a little bit different then.
So I think, if we're creating something unique for ourselves, like we're taking the core of what was there. I like the idea that like maybe the witches market is seen as a really good thing within Yatamon because all the Yanari that exist all are like gravitate towards
this is
it.
the place to be.
And like because it's so loud for most of the day that it's like they're exhausted and they fall asleep during the like there's like a period of time in which they're all sleeping because they're like they're getting all their satisfaction from the market. And so most people are happy. But if you experienced and saw Yanari outside of Yatamon, they'd be making the noises, or maybe they'd be upset that you're not making it. And so like I like the idea as a monster as a monster ability, like they can like if you haven't spoken or done something loud within a second, they can use the reaction to like shake you or do something crazy to try to get you to make a noise.
I once ran a game. I was running a game with my brother, and there was this place that the characters went through the halls of silence. Okay. And they went through this area, and it was just, there were all of these toads everywhere. And we didn't tell any of the players, what this was about. And what they started doing is, as players were talking, my brother and I, we were using a battle map, right? Battle map. And we just started moving the toads toward whoever was talking. And at some point, like, we were moving the toads closer and closer. And one guy whose background was, he was an orator. And so he was talking and he was like pontificating, had no idea. He was like pontificating about something. And all these toads are getting close to him. And they have this like paralyzing, like tongue attack. And he's like, as they're all like, right there, he's like, in mid-speech, he's like, oh, they're drawn to speech, aren't they? This is the halls of silence. God damn it. And then they all start attacking him. And so I was just wondering if there's like, they're attracted to it, but those toads were aggressive because they're trying to maintain silence. Whereas these things are attracted to sound, but they get antsy in silence.
I mean, it could be that sound is like food to them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they're getting hungry. And so maybe after a good day of a noisy market, the Yanari are all stuffed and they go asleep.
But why can't they generate the sound themselves? You know what I mean?
Maybe they can. Maybe just normally they'd be like, plinking. And
sure. I think I could make my own meals, but I'd rather somebody else.
I'd rather somebody else make them, and also at this large scale. It's like a symphony.
I think that's why in Yatamon, Yanari are a unique experience where people are like, you just ignore them. They're just around doing stuff. And outside of Yatamon is where Yanari are like more pest-like because they are causing all of the mishaps. Like they're in your bed shaking you awake and slamming and breaking glass and doing other crazy stuff, right?
And also, if you like think about Obojima just from a sound perspective, like it's generally a very silent world. Like there's no airplanes, there's no loud noises, really Yatamon and probably the marketplace it's the noisiest area of Yatamon.
Yeah.
Like most of Yatamon are just people going around. There might be a K truck that whirs by, but we haven't really described like, does a whelmed moped make a noise? It's not like, it's not like a combustion engine.
Right.
It's just, it could be like an electric car going by where it just kind of goes, goes by. So
interesting.
So the loudest place in Obojima is probably Yatamon, or like if Mount Abora was to explode like a volcano, that would be loud, or a thunderclap. Like if there was a thunderstorm, maybe all of a sudden Yanari start to move toward a thunderstorm. Well, it could be something like that.
Ooh, maybe
if they can anticipate it.
It'd be also like maybe they're totally fine, and unless something really loud happens in the city, and then 200 Yanari all upend and destroy the market as they try to migrate to the thing, and the chaos that ensues. Imagine being a player or a group of players in the market when a building collapses like 2 blocks over, and all of a sudden like the market shoots into chaos as the Yanari all run.
I mean, in like traditionally, like loud noises were to either banish bad spirits or to call the attention of spirits. Like I'm thinking of like, there's, I don't know which cultures it was, but it was like some would be like, clapping. And I think ancient Egyptian they would have these things called clappers, and they would just like make a lot of noise to like alert the gods. And then some others, like I remember I used to do Tai Chi, and we were in this, up on this floor, and we'd hear the lion dancers practicing. And that is like dang, 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 ding, 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 and everything's jumping around, and it's like, and I don't know if that is to like call spirits or to banish evil or whatever, but it was like this very noisy experience. But it could be, something like that.
Yeah. Where, what would happen, like outside of this market, if you encounter one of these and you were to give it like, one of those collars with a bell? would it like go into like this drunken stupor as it like, as it just constant? Yeah.
I love that.
Like it's just too much, I got on this like sugar high basically.
Yeah.
Of noise.
Well, that's such an interesting NPC outside of Yatamon or even in Yatamon, where you could imagine this like spirit kin, like some sort of ritualist who's like has a bunch of red strings tied to their hip, and they all come back to a Yanari with a bell on them, and they're all kind of like drunkenly being dragged along by this person.
Yeah. I mean, if you keep a Yanari in physical, like, because we're kind of starting to say that they're kind of invisible and incorporeal until sound starts to happen, and then it forces them into like a manifestation. But maybe if they're kept in that state, it could make them drunk, or it could make them act woozy.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, they're not normally like they're like we were talking about. There needs to be a point of rest for them, and when they are experiencing sound at all times, it's like
it's just
it
weird,
just
like
makes them drunk.
debaucherous like
Yeah.
experience,
They're
just
just like-
excess. So you just have like always like these weird like.
Even a Yanari
Yeah.
needs silence.
Yeah. And so like I love this idea of this character who's like they control the Yanari, but not by any magic, but it's kind of like we were talking about like Nausicaa with the demons, like kind of like it's not a magic trick. It is just understanding the function of a creature.
She's got that
It's like
whistle.
it's like
the
it's like the whistle. It's not something. It's not a cache. She's just understanding the whistle stops the bugs from coming, right? And so it's like the same thing with Yanari, where it's like this person's not doing anything.
They're like the Pied Piper.
They're
They just
they are gonna let the Yanari, like the Yanari follow this person and do the things that she says. She'll let them like rest tonight or whatever it is. Like I'll take your bell off and you can go away. And like maybe it's like a one-time use. It's like do this little thing and I'll remove your bell. And they go and do it, and then she goes, okay, bye, and they like flutter off or whatever.
Yeah, like
and she's just good at like capturing them, and like she's like, oh yeah, just use them to do little tasks.
Yeah.
Like she's like, oh yeah, I deliver like my little like potions to people this way. I send the Yanari out and then I remove their bell and they can go to sleep.
And it can be like in the market, they're crawling all over the place, and she just goes up and grabs one.
grabs
like,
one.
and it, like
Puts a
the
bell on.
and then it's like, and then she's speaking to them in their language or whatever.
I love it. I love the integration of like, I think maybe that's something I want, like I want the spirit world mixing with the physical realm, and I think this is a great example of that, and I think it should be apparent in Yatamon. So I'm loving this market so far. Okay, so we've got all the Yanari moving around. We have this really interesting market. We have what are some cool characters that could fit within this space, right? We have these witches that are brewing these potions and doing all of this stuff. What about Is there any nefarious things happening in this space? Are there, like Adam, you had mentioned earlier, like what if Yanari are going and pickpocketing on behalf of somebody else?
I want the regular who's here like every couple of days looking, it's like the person who's looking for that, the one pressing of that, the record of that, somebody's here every day looking for that thing. So it'd be really cool if it's like, I'm looking for this edition of this video game. Right. Some first stage piece of tech.
Yeah.
And so they're always like rummaging through stuff, hoping to find the gem, right? That's in there.
It's like if you've ever, a book that has like 6 in the series or something like that. And then you're like, oh, I have 6 and 7. I don't have 5.
Yep.
I can't read 6 and 7 until I get 5. And so they're like, do you have the Dawn Treader of the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? I need that one.
And I want it in this edition so that it matches everything on the shelf. Yeah.
You could imagine, I think we mentioned early on in Captain Clintock's like character design, we were talking about like, why does Captain Clintock dress like a first stage captain? Like that is unique, like his daughters don't dress that way. His daughters are wearing leather and whatever, but why does he dress that way? And we had talked about him being inspired by like maybe French nautical books and things like that, and like kind of emulating, like Captain Nemo in some capacity, like by seeing it. You could imagine someone like there's a person who shows up to the market who looks very first age in all of their designs, and they're like, it's almost like it's an aesthetic to them. Like they live and breathe the first age and all, and then maybe they're even a little like kind of annoying about it. They're like, oh, the cassette I'm listening to, it's a rare one. And they like mispronounce what it's the Rolling Bones.
Yeah.
It's broken, so it just makes screeching noises, but I still love it.
Yeah. It's very avant-garde.
Yeah. They're like very like a high fashion group of people that roll through. That's interesting, right? Like clothing, like having like a first age clothing market shop within this space is kind of like someone who's selling like, here's a pair of Air Jordans from the 80s.
Or there's like somebody who's doing mullets like from the 80s, like, or a flock of seagulls where it's all like sticking out.
Okay, so this is something I've wanted to do that I think is really interesting for Obojima, which is like, you have this opportunity to play whatever 80s music you want in your game. You can sell your players cassettes, like mixtapes that you create. And then it's like, then it's just like, whenever they go into battle or whenever they do something, it's like, what cassette are you going to play for this combat? It's like, we'll play cassette B for my loved one, Jimmy. And then you put that one on and you get the 7 songs you like. I think that's so much fun. I think this is an opportunity for you to kind of like play around with some of the almost meta knowledge of what the 80s were.
Get out your ABBA.
Yeah. I would, if I could pick, I would play ABBA all day long for every encounter forever. It's
you would not be
so
wrong.
Good.
You would not be wrong.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
the correct choice. Yeah.
Give me a Man After Midnight as you're punching a troll in the face. It's so good. Who's Fernando? I don't know, but the dragon's going to eat you if you don't run, dude.
Yep. Blondie.
Oh my gosh, Blondie.
Yep. Do that.
Yes. I'm all about it. Anyways, that's
so good.
Someone who's like curating music in some capacity would be really interesting.
Curator.
I also think maybe, I don't know how this service would work, but someone who maybe is able to, and we have to figure this out, but we've mentioned within the first age that there is, with their first age technology, there's 3 ways to get it to function. Whelmed by a spirit, casting the jolt spell, which is temporary. Whelmed by a spirit's also temporary, right? Like the spirit leaves the object and it's gone. It stops functioning. And then there's a permanent enchantment that can be done, right? So like there are things that function all the time because someone did something to make it run. And when it comes to D&D terms, I don't quite remember. This might be a home rule or might be official. In my head, you have to cast a spell on an object every day for a year or something like that to get it permanently enchanted with that thing. That might have been a home rule. I don't know if there is mechanics in D&D for enchanting an object. But I think it'd be interesting if there was someone here who offers permanent enchantments on objects. Where it's like, oh, you want your TV to function, or you want this toaster oven to heat up, or the radio to turn on, but you don't have a spirit companion and you can't cast magic. Hire me and I will do this for you.
That's cool.
And so like maybe that's like a service that's offered there, where it's like I don't necessarily have objects I'm selling, but if you bring an object to me, I can make it function for you.
Do you think that, like for example, if I wanted my my scooter to just function for, just be available, would that cost more than like my portable cassette player, right? Is that something
I don't know.
you want to do?
I mean, that's like I feel like you could break it down. You could break the categories down in 1,000 ways.
Right, like vehicles,
vehicles,
handheld objects.
Yeah. Like does it have a motor? Harder to get it to run.
Yeah.
Is it like, a Tickle Me Elmo. Yeah, I can get that operating in like a week.
Right. We can just kind of outline some guidelines for DM.
Yeah, so
like,
maybe
that's cool.
I think that's a great place to put it is like, yeah, there's a little outline on how some enchantment might work.
Yeah, I like that. It could be expensive too. Like we could.
Yeah, I think that there is a sort of, I don't know. I feel like there is a need for like incentives to like want to collect dawn petals and get your gold flowers and all that stuff to like create a bit of an economy here.
Yeah, and it has to be. It has to be expensive because at some point, everybody who has any first stage tech it would be permanently enchanted, right?
Right.
If I find a TV, like pretty much anybody who has a TV would eventually just get it, So like, what's the downside? Is it just the cost? Is there? Yeah, I guess what goes into that. But I think it's a great idea. I just want to explore that a little bit more.
I think it's something we kind of like did a little hand waving on in the first thing. Like this does occur; they do exist.
Yeah.
I think realistically, we should, if we're gonna introduce this, if we're gonna make this as an option, then we should come up with a mechanic in some capacity.
Feels like a subclass.
Because it could be a subclass, but I feel like players are gonna want to be able to do this themselves, in some capacity. I think,
like an enchanter.
Clearly, I don't think it's a subclass because I think many wizards and witches are able to permanently enchant a vending machine and then leave it about somewhere to be used as a vending machine. And they might have a spirit companion that whelms it, but like they're not everyone. And we even claim, you can see in our cat right here, we even claim that the most common of characters that are left with vending machines are cats, like awakened cats. And so it's like awakened cats aren't spirits, they're animals that have been awakened. And so there's something else. It has to be easy enough to get them operating. So I think what we either do is say like, it takes some time, maybe like a week or so and a lot of energy and coin or whatever it is. And then you can make it happen. And then when it comes to like first stage scooters and stuff that like really has game mechanics, it's like, well, it's just hard to find like a functioning, like, remember how we talk about the different types of machines? Some of them are great condition, broken, but can be fixed or completely destroyed. It's like most scooters are either owned by someone or broken and destroyed. So it's like to find a functioning one is the hard part. And that's like, that's how you limit people just enchanting and making everything function.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's part of it is like, oh yeah, it's like easy enough to enchant, but most stuff is broken and most people don't know how to fix it. So there's that as a possibility too. I think it's just a general conversation. That being said, we are well beyond our time again, as it always goes.
This is weird. Like, there have been, podcasts, where we're at like minute 30 and we're like, where do we go from here? And each one of these we've kind of gone.
We've dived even deeper.
We have. Yes.
Well, I think this one we fleshed out a cool monster and also a location.
Yeah.
That I'm pretty excited
That's
about.
good.
And then asked a couple questions that we probably need to answer on another podcast.
Yeah.
That being said, thank you for joining us on the Obojima Podcast. This was The Witches Market.
Dun, dun, dun.
You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, Discord. And we'd love to see you there interacting. Tell us down below in the comment section or on Discord what you want to see in a witches market. What do you think is cool? Like how can you see the Yanari interacting with this space? Are we missing something? Is there just amazing low-hanging fruit that we just completely forgot about? We want to hear about it in the comments below. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you next time.